Which of these looks better? Almost anyone will tell you that the Demon Slayer anime looks better, and for good reason. It's animated by Ufotable, and the fights are some of the best in the industry. But ever since the anime blew up, people have often claimed that the manga looks worse in comparison to the anime. Some people would go so far as to say it even looks bad. Which is weird, because if it really does look bad, how could it possibly inspire such a good-looking anime? So in this video, I'd like to compare the Demon Slayer manga to its anime adaptation, explain the value of Gotouge's art style, and discuss whether the anime is the superior form of this story. Naturally, in any anime versus manga discussion, there's a few obvious things that are just assumed. So for example, when you watch the anime, you get the clear advantage of all the voice acting, music, and all the great sound design. And of course, it's animated, which for a lot of people isn't something they're willing to give up just to read the source material. Those are just givens that we don't really need to dedicate too much time to, since they're true for just about any anime adaptation. Not to say I won't mention animation again, as it is important to this discussion, but we'll save that for later in the video. So when we're discussing anime versus manga, the one question we have to start with is, okay, what inspired the anime? In other words, what is something you have in the manga that if you took it away, you would get a completely different anime? And there's really two things in the case of Demon Slayer. The first of which anyone notices right away is the art style. Demon Slayer's art style is instantly recognizable and has undoubtedly contributed to its mainstream success because of how unique it is. To me, it seems like it borrows a bit from traditional Japanese art. I couldn't find any explicit influences, but when you compare Demon Slayer and old-school Japanese art side by side, you can't help but feel they look somewhat similar. Mostly in how characters are colored, as well as the way things are shaped in Demon Slayer. Other key features of Demon Slayer's art style include big colorful eyes, crazy over-the-top hairstyles, and diverse, vibrant outfits with all kinds of beautifully detailed patterns. So you combine all of this together and you get a manga that easily stands out from all of its contemporaries. Now, is it objectively better looking than other manga? Not exactly. In fact, I believe Gotouge recently did a rendition of Dragon Ball. You look at their take on that manga and it definitely leaves a lot to be said. But that's okay, because that's them trying someone else's manga. But Demon Slayer itself has a distinct art style that is instantly recognizable. If it weren't for this art style, then the anime wouldn't look anything like it does today. So for that, we have to give the manga some credit. And like I said before, we also have to give it credit for the character designs. But before I say more on that, make sure to like the video if you're enjoying it so far. It's the easiest way to support the channel, and it helps spread the video to other viewers like you. Now, in addition to the art style, we also have to thank Gotouge for the character designs. I mean, just go on YouTube and you'll find a bunch of people praising Demon Slayer's character designs. Just like the overall art style, character designs in this manga are instantly recognizable. The one example everyone likes to point out is Rengoku. He's got the long, spiky hair, the red, white, and yellow color scheme, the big eyes that make him look like he's constantly drinking Red Bull. You look at his character and you immediately understand that he's this energetic, bigger-than-life dude and that he's got this fire theme going on. It's an example of how Gotouge can instantly express the core elements of a character just by their design alone. The same is true for a character like Inosuke. I mean, the first thing you notice is the boar head he wears. What do you think of when you see it? Well, obviously that he's batshit crazy and that he's wild for wearing an animal head. But boars are commonly associated with stubbornness, so you make that connection and assume he's a stubborn character. And later on, you find out that yes, Inosuke is a character that does what he wants and like a boar charges headfirst into any and every situation. This is why characters like Inosuke and Rengoku are so popular, because Gotouge pieces these characters together in such a deliberate way that you see all the details in their designs, and you immediately understand what they're fundamentally all about. Again, this is another thing that if it weren't for Gotouge's skills when it comes to character designs, the Demon Slayer anime wouldn't be anything like what people know it for. So when we talk about the anime versus the manga, the two things people have to respect the manga for are the art style and the character designs. Maybe the anime looks more polished, but without those two things, it wouldn't look nearly as recognizable. Now, having said that, let's get into the value of watching the anime. So before I mentioned that that animation is just kind of a given. Obviously, anime is going to be easier to watch and has a clear advantage over manga. That being said, in the case of Demon Slayer, the animation makes the anime so much better than the manga. To be clear, I think fights in the manga look okay. The paneling is nothing crazy, choreography in the manga is nothing special either. So when you read fights in the manga, they're, okay, but certainly nothing like you might see in, say, Jujutsu Kaisen or One Piece. But the anime is a completely different story. The choreography is perfect. The perspective and the cuts are all perfect. The details they add in the fights are incredible. I mean, when you have Demon Slayer consistently going viral for its fights, it's kinda hard not to recognize just how good they look. I mean, just look at Usui's big fight in the end of Season 2. You have this huge clash of attacks and the characters look insane. Again, I know the anime has a default advantage over the manga, but you compare that fight to how it looks in the anime versus the manga, and it's clear that Ufotable's adaptation looks so much better. And the same is true for just about every fight in Demon Slayer. So on the one hand, it is a bit unfair to make this comparison because the manga isn't animated, but you can't help but watch the anime and then read the manga and still feel like you'd rather just watch the anime. On a similar note, character expression is much better in the anime. To be clear, obviously Demon Slayer's iconic art style comes from the manga and the source material. That being said, Gotouge often draws characters in weird ways where they just seem flat, or they just look kind of funny when they're not supposed to. On the one hand, the traditional art influence gives Demon Slayer a unique look, but on the other hand, it makes the characters look kinda jank. Another thing you have to consider is that Gotouge doesn't shade the characters. So you take their weird shapes and the fact that they aren't shaded, and the manga usually looks pretty flat. And then you look at the anime and it's like night and day. The characters are full of personality. Every expression is full of emotion, and it's why Demon Slayer often generates viral memes. It's full of scenes that can either be very emotional or very intense, whereas those same scenes in the manga can feel kind of dull. So you take the superior character expression and the level of detail that can be seen in elements like the animation, and it's hard to compare the manga and anime side by side and not lean more towards the anime. Now, to answer that original question, I don't think Demon Slayer looks bad. Like I said, it has a unique art style and character designs that are instantly recognizable and full of personality. Even though it can feel dull at times, that's a lot different than saying it isn't good. Even if the anime is probably the better way to experience the story, you should still take the time to read the manga and see how it inspired the anime. But now I'd like to hear what you think. How would you compare the anime and manga? Which do you like better? Share your thoughts and see what everyone else has to say down in the comments. I'll pick my favorite and share it as comment of the week on my community tab. And if you'd like another discussion like this one, then check out my video on Jujutsu Kaisen. In that video, I analyzed Jujutsu Kaisen's artistic evolution. You can find that video in the playlist linked right here. Until then, thank you for watching, and I hope to hear from you soon.